All right, so good morning. And so we'll just have a couple of blocks today, and we will get started lying on the block with the block under the sacrum, the supported bridge pose, Salamba Setu Bandha. Come down onto our mat with the bent legs. Put the block underneath the legs. If you know all this, just continuing on. And then lifting up, sliding the block under the sacrum, and sliding the legs out to straight or straightish. And you can start out a little more easeful. Inhaling up into the lower belly, exhale, melting over the block. And then as you get a little bit more settled in there, gently cooperating with the block, turning the legs parallel, bringing them together or almost together, and a gentle reach down through the heels, a little drawing up of the hip bones, up the front of the body, lengthening, stretching yourself over the block. Really feeling that breath. Inhale and a nice long exhale, pouring out. Smoothing the breath out. So notice it might be actually a little bit challenging to breathe in this shape with our spine extended, our chin a little drawn toward the chest. So breathing, there we go. No need to say anything. So breathing with what is. And then gently expanding the breath, making it a little longer and a little bit more even and smooth. Sometimes we have expectations about how something is supposed to work or feel or how things are supposed to progress. And then if they don't do that, we end up kind of fighting with ourselves and our expectations. And we don't need to do that. Starting where you are. And we'll take a few more breaths here on the block. And then bending the knees. And let's take a bridge pose up off the block, scooping the tailbone up, rolling up. Taking a few breaths here, still feeling the length down the front of the body like we have on the block. And then we'll make our way down, moving that block out of the way, rolling down, landing on the floor for a moment. We're going to come back up in the bridge pose. So actually, since we have this block here, let's take the block and put it between the knees. Probably the narrow distance or maybe the medium distance, narrow width or maybe the medium width of the block, depending on what seems to make hip distance the best way for your legs. And then we'll come back up in the bridge pose again, giving that block a gentle squeeze, maybe interlocking the fingers. Pressing the weight down evenly through the feet. And a few more breaths here. Squeeze the block a little more. And then rolling down vertebrae by vertebrae. Landing on the floor. Squeeze the block for another breath or two. And then we'll take the block out. Take a moment, letting go. And then making our way up to sitting. And we'll sit in Sukhasana with the crossed legs. Using those arms alongside, lengthening up, getting space between the vertebrae, space in the hip sockets. Whatever shifting and squinching you want to do. And slowly releasing with the arms, letting the hands rest on the knees. Inhale and exhale, pouring down the sides of the neck off the tops of the shoulders, long through the center line. And then we'll reach out wide through the collarbones, through the fingertips, breathing the arms up. Inhale and exhale, lifting through the whole spine, breathing them down. Let's do that once more. Lots of lift, keeping that lift as the arms come down, and then we'll do the Amy around, or also known as the Sufi circles, tilting a little forward, shift over to the right, round back, over to the left, circling around there. Breathing into your body. We don't have to be on the same timing. All might look a little different. This is sort of like squingy. Organized squingy. And 3 or 4 more times around in this direction. And then we will finish up with this direction, coming back onto the sitting bones. Inhale and exhale. The body comes to a place of stillness and steadiness. Maybe that energy keeps swirling around. And then changing the cross of the legs. Let's take the arms up and down once before we go around the other direction. Really getting length through the spine, space in hip sockets as we breathe the arms down, keeping that space. And then we'll go the other direction, forward, over to the left, rounding back over to the right. Continuing around on your own timing with your breath. And a couple more times around in this direction. And then we will finish up, back onto the sitting bones. Inhale and exhale. And let's breathe the arms up and down once more, reaching wide, lifting up, breathing wide and down, and then coming forward and over, breathing into the back of the body. Up unfurling that spine vertebrae by vertebrae. Taking a breath, arriving in this moment. And then we will come up in downward facing dog, walking the dog or anything else you want to do there. It only have to be the downward facing dog that is here at this moment. And from that place of acceptance of what is, that's where we can change things if we want to. Breathing into the hamstrings, into the back of the knee, into the calves, encouraging them to change a little and lengthen out and extend a little more. In our downward facing dog, hopefully become a little bit more comfortable. And then finishing up with whatever you're doing. And here we are in the best downward facing dog of this moment, nothing moving but the breath. And coming down, sitting back in child's. And we'll slide forward onto our stomach into the Sphinx. Reaching back through the legs, little tailbone to the floor, and then wide across the collarbone and upper back. Sides of the body pulling back, center line forward. Maybe feeling like that upper body's lying on the block, go up and over. Like you have a little more space, the elbows might lift. And not to just push up with the arms, but engage the back muscles, engage the core, even though it might mostly be the arms if you're lifting up a little higher. And then we will come down, take a deep breath, making your way back up to downward facing dog. And let's lift our right leg up, reaching long through the heel. Let's lower the right leg down, big toe to the left heel. And then stretching that right leg back up again with a little more space, hopefully. And then bending the right knee dog at the high fire hydrant. And through to the lunge. And we'll bring the left knee down and Jayasana, the kneeling lunge. And breathing those arms all the way around in a big circle and back up overhead. And Namaste. Let's turn to the elephant rider. Feet going to the diagonal, bending the knees, pressing out and back with those elbows, or lower arms, actually, I guess it kind of is. Feeling the shins and the knees pulling wide to the side, a little pulling into the center from the heels. And let's come around in the temple pose, pressing the feet into the floor, coming up three-pointed star. Lift a little higher, keep lifting as we bend the knees and pull the elbows wide, coming into the temple pose. Breathe and deepen here. And then let's come back around to the temple pose, straightening up the center line. Big reach to the side, bending the knees, and hands to Namaste in front. And let's do that once again. Breathing up, three-pointed star. Keep lifting as we come into the temple pose. Arriving here. And then going around again, coming up through the center line. Big reach out and namaste. And then coming forward, turning the feet to parallel, wide length, forward bend, prasarita padottanasana. Turn into our right lunge again, and we'll go to Matsyendrasana, moving the right foot a little to the left, bringing the left knee under. And then we're in Matsyendrasana with the right leg crossed over. And let's take a twist to the right. Inhale, lots of space, exhale and twist. Coming back to the center, and then let's switch legs. Matsyendrasana with the left leg crossed over. And we'll twist to the left. Inhale and exhale. And coming back to the center. Disentangle the legs, coming up into the forward bend. And then a little concave back, drawing up the shins. Actually kind of a big concave back. Maybe putting a bend in the knees so you can really lengthen out the front of the body. And then pouring over into the forward bend again. Coming all the way up to standing, big front body yawn. And pressing the arms down long through the top of the head. Circling the shoulders to interlock the fingers. Lengthening up the front of the body to lift the chest, to lift the chin. And coming forward and over. Pressing out through the hands. And releasing the hands. Concave back, halfway up again, folding over. Through the vinyasa, downward facing dog. And then we will do all of that around on the left side. Actually, there'll be a little bit of a different thing on the left, but more or less the same. Let's lift our left leg up. And then reaching that left leg down, big toe to the right heel. And reaching the left leg back up. Bending the knee dog at the high fire hydrant. Through to the lunge. And then we'll bring the right knee down and Jayasana. Breathing the arms all the way around and back up overhead. Namaste in front. And turn into the elephant rider. We'll come up to the three-pointed star, big lift up. Now here's where it's going to be a little different. We're going to keep lifting as we bring the arms to parallel, turning the feet to parallel. So remember, I'm not the right-left mirror anymore. So we're going to rotate our left leg out, leg toward the front of the mat, left leg, out 90 degrees into the warrior number 2. Reaching from that inner thigh to the inner knee to the center of the foot. Reaching back through the right leg. So of course we're not like the temple pose, which was all very symmetrical. Let's see if you can find an energetic symmetry here. So it's not all about going into the left side, into the left. And then not moving the feet, but as if we're temple posing, coming up, straightening the left leg, feeling like the right leg gets straighter. We're going to go back to the warrior 2, taking the hands down the center line into Namaste. And then reversing that, straightening the left leg, hands come up the center line. And then a big reach out, just coming to parallel to the floor, back to our warrior 2. And then we'll straighten up the left leg, turn the feet to parallel. Deep breath. And we'll rotate the right leg out 90 degrees toward the back of the mat and into the warrior 2 on the right. Inner thigh to inner knee, the center of the foot. Feeling both that symmetry of the temple pose, but then the little nuances of the fact that we're not symmetrical. Right, then we'll straighten up the right leg, bringing the arms up like the three-pointed star. Keep lifting higher. And then as we go back to the warrior 2, the hands come down the center line, Namaste. And going back around, straightening that right leg, hands come up the center line. Lift a little more, reaching wide back into the warrior 2 with arms parallel to the floor. And straighten up the right leg, turn the feet to parallel. Big lift up, front body yawn here. Coming forward and over. Vajrayana Padottanasana, wide apart, feet closed. And then we will turn to the left lunge, the front of our mat. And into Matsyendrasana, walking the left foot a little across, bringing the right knee under Matsyendrasana. So an option here, actually there's a couple of them. You can be here in Matsyendrasana, that's good. Or taking it into the box pose. So you can keep your bottom right leg bent if you want, and just try to get that top left leg down with the shin parallel to the front of the mat. And then if you can, you want that right shin a little more forward so that the left shin and right shin are right over each other. I don't know if it's a box because it's really a triangle. But don't force your knees or your hips if that's not going to work for you. Matsyendrasana again is fine. And we will twist to the left. Inhale, lots of space. Exhale and twist. Coming back to the center. And then we will switch the cross of the legs. So we've got Matsyendrasana with the right leg in front, or maybe going to the box pose. So box pose starts with trying to get the top leg in position. It's usually a little easier with the bottom leg bent further back. And maybe moving that bottom leg more forward so you have parallel shins, or not. Like I said, don't stress your knees or your hips. Matsyendrasana is fine. And then we will twist to the right. Inhale and exhale. And coming back to the center, disentangling our legs, and we will come up in forward bend. And then a big concave back, drawing up the shins, a little fully up with the upper back, maybe a little bend in the knees to get a little more length and arch in the spine. And pouring over into the forward bend. Coming all the way up to standing, big front body line. Maybe an extra circle with the arms. We're going to carry the arms around. And then Namaste in front, Samasthiti steadiness. And we'll release the hands. And we'll take a circle with the shoulders to interlock the fingers. Lengthening up the front of the body, lift the chest, lift the chin. Coming forward and over, pressing out through the hands. Releasing the hands. A little concave back, folding over, bending the knees and sitting down. And we are going to be coming back down to the floor, having the block nearby there. And Let's see, yeah, let's come back down to the floor. And then we're going to do Supta Sukhasana, crossing the legs and letting them drop open. So it's similar to Baddha Konasana, and yet not, especially if your hips are a certain way like mine, it's very much not. This is a lot more challenging. Supta Baddha Konasana will work just fine if the Supta Sukhasana is too much strain on the hips or the knees. So we're trying to get the feet kind of under the knees. And just paying attention to which leg you have in front, doesn't really matter which one it is. And then also, maybe this is making your lower back hyperextend as tighter hip joints pull that pelvis forward and the hip bones up. And if that's happening, a gentle drawing up through the core, trying to level the pelvis and lengthen the lower back. And we'll take a few breaths here. Inhale into the lower belly, exhale, encouraging breath out through the inner thighs, out through the knees. And then using the hands to help us bring those legs up to parallel. And so we're going to do a figure four bridge pose. So you could do it right from here and just cross your right leg over. Oh, or we'll use the block for help. So block under the legs. Maybe taking the block on a higher or even the highest height for a supported bridge pose. But you want to feel like you could do a little lift off the block. All right. So even if the block doesn't put you in a perfect bridge pose, that's fine. So here we are, bend the knees, getting those feet hip distance apart, flattening the feet into the floor. And then we'll cross the right leg over. And so we're pressing the right knee down, at the same time not letting that right hip go down. Level the pelvis on the block or on the floor if you're not on the block. And then pressing into the left foot and lifting up, however much that is. Figure four bridge. And then come back down, and we'll set the right leg. Taking a breath, and we'll do the left, crossing the left leg over. And then take a few moments finding that alignment that what can help you feel as we try to press the left outer knee down, open up our figure four, but at the same time not letting the pelvis twist, letting that flat surface of the block or the floor show you where that level pelvis is, where you have to make the compromise between pressing the knee down and keeping the pelvis level. And then we'll come up in the figure four bridge, pressing the right foot into the floor. And then steady down on your block or the floor, uncrossing the left leg, Wherever we are, just take a slide out to straight with those legs for a moment. And then if you're on the block, coming off the block. And then we're going to Supta Sukhasana once more, putting the other leg in front. Leveling the pelvis, a little lengthen through the core. And here we are breathing. And bringing those legs parallel. All right, so we're going to do our figure four bridge pose again. You could use the block again, or maybe this time coming from the floor. So I'm going to be coming from the floor if you're just going to come along with me. Or you can boost yourself up there on the block. All right, so here we are, either resting on the floor or on the block, feeling those feet nice and wide and flat into the floor. We'll do the left leg first, crossing the left leg over. Take a moment, finding that level pelvis using the floor, and then pressing into the right foot and coming up. Maybe interlock the fingers underneath. That's one advantage of coming from the floor. There's usually more room to do that interlocked fingers. And here we are. Find a breathe. Make it all feel easy. And down. Uncrossing the left leg. Take a breath or two, letting go of any tension in the face, the jaw, the shoulders. And then we'll do the other side. Crossing the right leg over. Feeling that level pelvis against the floor or the block. And then as we come up, taking that level pelvis with you, rolling up, pressing up. Making that breath as big and round as you can. And coming down. Uncrossing the right leg. If you're on the block, coming down off the block. And we'll slide the legs out to straight along the floor. Reach through the heels. Stretch the arms up overhead. And let's bend the knees, making our way up, and we will come around and back up into downward facing dog. Maybe a little dog walking or whatever you want to do. Arriving in this downward facing dog after you've been somewhere rather different for a while. All right, and then finishing with whatever you're doing. And going through a vinyasa, any version. Maybe you want to do it twice since we haven't done much of that today. Here we are, downward facing dog. Looking between the hands to jump or step forward. Into the concave, back halfway up. Folding over. Let's take another breath or two here in the forward bend, really lengthening through the legs. And then coming up to standing, big front body. And around to Namaste in front, Namaste, steadiness. So we're going to stand on one leg and do not the tree pose, or maybe the tree pose. So not the tree pose, Ardha Baddha Padma. Or you're coming over to a wall, as I am. Okay, let's see how to do this. Let's see. That's right, I'm over there and there. This should work out all right. Okay, so here we are, standing in Tadasana, and then hand on the wall. So let's start in the tree pose, reaching down through the left leg, bringing the right leg up, tree pose. And similar to that figure 4 shape, similar opening, trying to keep the pelvis level, but it's usually a little bit more spacious and easeful. It requires a little less flexibility deep in the hip joint. Option number 1, staying here, or we take that right foot, bring the heel up to the front of the left hip, and then press that right knee down and back. Again, try not to hyperextend the back like might have happened on the floor, pulling those abdominal muscles in. This is not working for your knee joint or hip joint, going back to the tree pose. So it's not exactly like the figure 4 here because our shin and the right foot kind of are going on upward diagonal rather than straight across. So maybe balancing here, putting the left hand on your hip or overhead or out to the side. Another option is the right arm. You do like a half binding around behind you and get hold of the right foot. And then balancing with the wall, chair, or other supports. And then we'll take that right leg down. And hang on the legs. Let's play around on the other side. All right, here we are, finding the Tadasana for a moment, where things start from, and then we bring our left leg up. Let's tree pose. So I call the Ardha Padma, which means half-bound lotus, I call that the not the tree pose because I've seen that called the tree pose. And it's not really the tree pose, at least in the traditional nomenclature. Nomenclature. I should have looked up how to say that word before I tried to say it. Not a word you hear out loud very often. Anyway, all right, I digress as usual. Here we are in our tree pose, level pelvis, more spacious opening probably through the inner thigh, through the hip. And then we take our left foot, we're trying to put the heel up here right in the center of the hip joint. And then that knee presses down, out, and a little in as we're feeling the left shin go on an upward diagonal to the right. And checking that you're not hyperextending that lower back. Pelvis has a little press forward, abdominal muscles a little draw in and up. So you flatten yourself toward the center plane of the body. Just seeing where things are on this side. You may find you can do this pose without too much difficulty on one side and won't work on the other side. This side's more difficult for me. And maybe balancing with your right hand down the hip or up overhead. The next option, maybe you're there, is that left arm can come around like a half binding to find the left foot. And there you are. Long arms help a lot here as well, as they often do in half binding things. And so here we are somewhere, taking a few more breaths. And bring the left leg down. Tadasana, Namaste, steadiness. And here we are at the front of our mats. Big front body yawn. And diving forward. And concave back. Inhale and exhale. And so our final destination will be child's pose. So you can go through a vinyasa or not, downward facing dog, or just downward facing dog to child's pose. And here we go. Or of course, 2 or 3 through the vinyasas. And if you're still here with me, a downward facing dog, here we are. This downward facing dog in this movement. Coming down, sitting back in child's pose. And here we still are in child's pose. Let's be here a few more breaths. And up, and we will come down to the floor and into Shavasana. Oh. And exhale, letting go of all efforts. This nice, easeful, effortless opening at the front of the body, opening of the hips. We've done all those more challenging ones. And moving back into your body, into the room, moving the fingers and toes, getting the circulation going. Stretching the arms up a little bit. And bend your knees, gently make your way up to sitting. Sitting in any comfortable position with a long and spacious spine. Taking another moment, sitting quietly inside yourself. And namaste. Thank you for coming.